Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Passionately Wrong podcast with myself, Randy, and my friend James. Today, we are going to discuss lawyers and why they get paid so much. And I had my own experience with this. I'm not an expert in being a lawyer, but I'm an expert in paying a lawyer. And I paid a lot of money to my lawyer. I remember getting the invoice, and there was a lot of hours on there. There was time reading emails that was charged, and a lot of stuff I maybe didn't understand, and there was a price tag at the back. So that's what I want to ask James about. Why do they charge so much money, and what are they actually getting paid out of the invoice that they sent me?
Yeah. So, of course, I sympathize with your question, Randy. Despite being a lawyer and having benefited from the ways that we manage pay ourselves, I've also been a consumer of legal services, and I have exactly the same reaction as you, which is, holy cow, this seems like a lot of money. And worse than that, from my economics and psychology training, the incentive in the way that lawyers are paid seem to be skewed in ways that are not to the benefit of clients. So the simple fact of I'm paying you by the hour. What's your incentive to be efficient with your time and to get me the answer as quickly as possible? If I could take 2 hours to answer a question and get paid twice as much as if I answered it in 1 hour. So this setup of the whole thing is ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. It has a basis. I'm providing you a service that is requiring me to invest a certain amount of time. I should be paid for my time. No problem with it. But lawyers are paid what they are to answer your question because they can. They write laws to make it hard to practice as a lawyer and to make it illegal for someone who's not qualified in a certain way to provide you those same services. So, in the background, most people haven't noticed it. There are people trying to disrupt the legal industry. They will offer you an online service to prepare a will for you. So you don't have to go to a lawyer and pay them by the hour to do it. Well, huge battles going on in the background about whether that represents the unauthorized practice of law or not. And that is pure protectionism. Let's just say it that way. There's a need for quality service, sure. And there's a need for some regulation. But my personal view is that there's a great deal more protectionism here than is warranted. A lot of services are not so special that you need to have this person who's got a special degree to provide it to you. So that's a little bit the cynical view or the pessimistic view. We're paid a lot because we write the laws and we can get away with charging people a lot. What are you going to do about it? But then again, I can't make you consume legal services. Sometimes you're stuck and then you have no choice but to hire a lawyer. But oftentimes you do have some say in how you conduct your life. You don't have to go and hire a lawyer to review a contract. You can just read it yourself or say, whatever, I'm just going to sign it. So there are market forces at play and there is competition at play. So the more positive view, and to give credit to all the people who are really good, hardworking lawyers, is they're specialized. They spend a lot of time getting good at and knowledgeable about certain topics. And just like you pay the mechanic to fix your car, the doctor to fix your heart, the pharmaceutical company to give you medicines they spend a lot of money to develop, you also pay a lawyer for the knowledge and skill that they develop over their education and lifetime of work. And price is what you pay, value is what you get. Some lawyers are better than others. And a lot of the problems people have with their bill from their lawyer comes from not good communication about what the lawyer is going to do and what it's going to cost you. So anyway, that's my high level answer. We do it because we can get away with it. Some lawyers are worth it. And it's the same question you would ask anybody who's offering to sell you something is, okay, what do I get for it?
So I guess I never looked at it this way, but I paid lawyer. The last time I paid a lawyer was before I became an editor. And then after I became an editor, I started charging by the hour for certain of my services, such as ghostwriting or something like that. And no one's ever challenged me on my rates or anything, which always surprised me because no one said, I want to see your MFA. Where's your certificate from StoryGrid or whatever? Are you in the Better Business Bureau? And so I always found that very surprising. But really, editing is kind of an unregulated service. I guess the lawyers are a little bit more regulated, right? Because you have to take a test and you have to get certified like every year or something like that.
So you do take a test to get admitted to the bar, and there's a quality standard. They assess not only your education, but your character and things like that, supposedly. And on an ongoing basis, you must maintain your certification. and the requirements differ depending on what jurisdiction you're in. But usually there's a requirement of so many hours of continuing legal education to maintain your standard. And you're regulated on a go-forward basis. You belong to a bar association, and if you violate the ethical rules or commingle client funds, you can be disbarred and no longer able to practice. And that is taken quite seriously. Again, lawyers want to maintain their competitiveness, so they don't let internet companies compete and they don't let disbarred lawyers compete. So you do need to maintain your good standing. I would say one other factor to keep in mind comparing other people who charge by the hour or however people charge, legal situations are almost always fraught. They're emotional. Something has happened. You want to sue someone, you're being sued, you're getting divorced. They're not happy situations. And when you combine the emotional stress of the situation together with the fact that you're paying out significant sums of money, the combination of those two things makes for an unhappy, almost always an unhappy situation when it comes to paying the bill. You're already grouchy. By the way, it's not even just your lawyer. The other lawyer is a complete bastard, right? Because they're fighting with you. They're trying to get you to pay money you don't owe or take something from you. So the possibility or the fact that individuals are going to form a negative impression of lawyers and the legal system is almost guaranteed, both because of I pay too much, the system is against me, that lawyer is against me, the judge is crazy, I don't understand what's going on. It's almost guaranteed that people are going to have a negative impression of their encounter with the legal system. And yeah, that's reflected in feeling unhappy about the amount of money you pay. Any amount of money you have to pay to get abused by the system is too much money.
But so you don't have to have a lawyer. You can defend yourself. But or in court, if you can figure it out, you can do it. And if you have a disbarred lawyer, can't he just go in there with you and advise you and help you, even though he's disbarred? Or can a buddy of yours, almost made it through law school but didn't, kind of go in there and represent? Can anyone represent you, or do you have to have a lawyer that's passed the bar? I don't understand the specifications. It sounds like if you can defend yourself, anyone can defend you.
Right. So you can choose to go without the services of a lawyer. You can represent yourself, but most courts don't let people other than the parties into the court. They have rules about who can be there representing them in a case. So you have to be admitted in that jurisdiction to practice because the judge doesn't want some layperson. They can't prevent you from going there by yourself because you're a party to the case, but they can't prevent anyone else from showing up who doesn't understand the rules of the court. They cause a lot of disruption. Right? Someone gets up and they've watched too many TV shows and they think because they watched Law and Order, now they can defend a capital murder case. Yeah, exactly. My cousin Vinny, also good. They won't let you know. So that the short answer is no, you can't. A disbarred lawyer, even if they're doing it for free, it's not a question of whether they're paying you or not. Now it's a question of the court rules. They won't let an unadmitted person in that jurisdiction. Me as a New York lawyer, when we had a case in Texas, I couldn't participate as a litigant in the case unless I got it temporarily admitted in that jurisdiction. And then you have to promise that you read the rules of the court and they want law and order. They want to know that you're going to write briefs properly, that you know when to object, when not to object. So I would also point out that these kind of encounters with lawyers, when you're in the judicial system, you're in court, those are important. And obviously, if you're affected by it, it's super important. But almost all of what I did was not that. I did the transactional type stuff where you review contract, the draft contract. And a lot of lawyers are doing non-litigation work, let's say, where they are providing different kinds of values and different kinds of services. You want to set up a company, you want to sell your company. So those can be happy and very rewarding transactions for which you say, oh, I'm super happy that lawyer did a good service for me. Or a lot of the risk I didn't see. Or so I don't want to imply that every legal encounter is going to leave clients unhappy or with a bad impression. And there's a lot of non-litigation work, let's say, that is exactly that kind of stuff. And I personally was happy to have worked all of my career in the corporate side, the transactional side, for which it wasn't necessarily always adversarial. Sure, you had to watch out for risk and protect your client. But at the end, if both sides were happy, that was a good outcome.
Well, let's go back to the original question, which was how much of the money I'm paying the lawyer is the lawyer walking away with putting it in his pocket, I guess.
I remember you answering the question about military pay with the only answer that's possible, which is it depends. And if you are in a small firm and you own the firm, you might end up with all of the money in the sense that I take the $200 an hour you pay me or whatever it is, and I have to maintain my overhead. So if I have an assistant, I have to pay the assistant. If I have a rent, I have to pay rent. But you can basically, you are earning whatever you bill out. If you're at a bigger firm, the overhead is bigger, the costs might be larger. You're maybe paying for people who are not directly billing clients. Now I have an IT guy. Now I have computer systems. I would say another way to look at that is selling your time hourly as a lawyer a good way to earn a good living. And it can be very good. And I would say even at the low end, where we say, oh, there's a couple of different peaks in average lawyer earnings, the ones who are only doing not as good as they potentially could are still making a good living compared to everyone else in other professions. A lawyer is not a bad way to make a good living. It's a short way to answer your question. For some people, it's a way to earn a really good living. And then for a very tiny percentage of the cohort, there's an opportunity for lottery-like winnings, if you want to think of that. Personal injury lawyers, people who sue on a percentage basis or earn a contingency fee, they might have an agreement that allows them to get anywhere from 30 to 40% of the total amount awarded. You've heard about large damage awards. Everybody has, because they make headlines. You win a case against the company for several $100 million or billions of dollars even. There's often a lawyer or a team of lawyers in the background who stand to make 40% of it. That's enormous dynasty altering money that a small number of lawyers earn. And does that mean you should have that as your goal and count on it if you're entering the legal world, that I'm going to get paid several $100 million and those are the kind of cases I pursue? You can, and some will make it. The same question about whether you should go to business school thinking you're going to become a hedge fund manager making $1 billion a year. Some people actually do, but I would say your chances of doing that are not great. So you're more likely to be in the range of, I'm either an average lawyer and I'm making 60, 80, 100, $150,000 a year. I don't know what people consider to be a good salary anymore. I'm a high-powered lawyer working for a New York law firm making $500,000 a year, or I'm one of these tort lawyers and I have every so often a chance of a $10 million or a $50 million payout. It's really that broad, right? You're an average earner, a high earner, or a ridiculously high earner. And probably the difference comes down to things like luck, talent. And I wish I could tell you that the balance skews more towards one side than the other, but it is, chance plays a pretty large role in how the outcome you might perceive here.
I think that for Passionately Wrong, like I think a lot of people when they're paying their lawyers don't think this guy's got to pay rent for his office, and the secretary or the assistant or the paralegal that's always responding to me, that person earns a salary, and he's got to pay for his own office supplies and all that overhead, and whatever however much time he's spending on me is just one of it, kind of like my editing business, right? I'm always looking for my next client, and maybe I'm doing three different things with three different clients at the same time. So when he's not available because I want to talk to him, it's because he's in court with somebody else or he's got conference call with somebody else or something. And unless you're rich, like maybe Trump, and that guy or girl's just working for you and, hey, answer the phone when I call you. For the most part, most lawyers are juggling clients and needs for clients, whatever, even if they're not doing criminal law or divorce law or something where they actually have to go to court, they still have 4 or 5 other clients that they're doing the paperwork for or the research for or something like that.
And oh, by the way, a very significant cost for professionals who are facing the general public, like doctors and lawyers, is malpracticing. And that's a significant cost, and probably one of the biggest costs that a practitioner in a small or a big firm has to take out of the overall number. And in part, that's because whether a person has been poorly served or not, if they think they've been poorly served, they can sue their lawyer and say, you didn't do a good job for me. I lost the case, even though someone always loses the case, right? You have the risk that then somebody sues you. That adds to the costs for everyone. So in a way, it's great that the U.S. is a society that has a lot of lawyers and helps support the rule of law, but it means people are also quick to turn to the legal system to resolve a dispute. It raises costs for everyone. Your insurance for your car is high because every time there's a car accident, there's going to be a lawsuit. When I worked for my company in my in-house role, we didn't spend a lot of time in court. This wasn't the nature of our business. We didn't sue people. We didn't get sued often, with one exception. And that was we had a couple thousand service guys driving around servicing equipment at customers. Every time there was an accident in the US, there was a lawsuit. That's just how it works. And that's a cost. That's a cost on society. Seems so what the big deal. Big deal is that everyone who doesn't have an accident pays higher insurance costs as a result. And that's a cost to keep in mind, Randy, to your point that you don't see always what the person who's providing the service to you has to do to be able to provide the service. They've got costs of the staff, they've got costs of their office, and they've got costs of protecting against legitimate claims, but also inappropriate claims. Malpractice is the term we use to refer to when you've made a mistake, right? I didn't do what I was supposed to do and it harmed you as a client. It's legitimate to make the client whole when that happens, but if you can. The other thing, no, it's good that you are trying to be balanced and offer some perspective in the question. It hurts, right? I mean, the cost of legal services went up dramatically over the years that I was practicing. I remember being outraged at lawyers charging $200 an hour when I started, and now we will pay people more than $1,000 an hour, $1,500 an hour for certain services. If they're an IP specialist, a tax specialist, a corporate specialist, this is a ton of money. And even as a corporation, everyone's sensitive to the costs that you pay. So the fact that there are people who can charge that, I don't want to suggest, again, that they're not worth it. Some people are extremely valuable. Someone who understands an important regulation and can give you an answer. This is what you have to do, or this is what you need to avoid doing. The amounts at stake are oftentimes very large. Lawyers fill a very important niche of helping people figure out how to successfully navigate the challenges that they're facing. Another way to look at the value or the benefit you get from working with a lawyer is, did they help me achieve my goal? Did I get past this situation? What's it worth to you not to go to jail? Well, that's worth probably quite a lot. What's it worth to you to successfully sell your house? Well, that actually has a number and you can figure it out. Usually lawyers don't charge very much for that because they're not adding a tremendous amount of value. What's it worth to you to sell your business and a breakup fee of $1 billion if it doesn't go forward? Well, you can put a value on that. It's partly how lawyers figure out how to charge for their services. It's always in the context of what they're doing for you.
I guess if I had one thing out there to talk to people who are listening about lawyers is, last time I worked with a lawyer, even though I got mad a couple times because of lack of communication or something like that, I was always very courteous. I was like, hey, I know you're busy, but I wrote you 5 emails last week. And at the end, he's like, hey, it was like, I don't know how to say this so it doesn't sound wrong, but it was a pleasure to work with you. And I gave you a 15% discount. You were better than my normal client. But I mean, I guess it pays to be a nice guy no matter what.
This is a good point. Most of my career, I practiced outside of the US, and I was happy to do so because the behavior of lawyers, the professionality of lawyers with one another was high. People treated each other with respect. They talked to each other nicely. And I'm talking lawyer to lawyer now, but the atmosphere in the US seems to have evolved into one that is emotional and frankly, people behaving like children. They just yell at each other and they say horrible things to each other. And this happens at the level of lawyer to lawyer, but also lawyer and client. People behave badly to one another. That creates some of those negative emotions we talked about before. I would say good communication is probably, for all the lawyers listening and all the clients who find themselves in situations similar to yours, Randy, good communication is probably the most important contributor to a good outcome. You, as a layperson, have a hard time evaluating whether I'm really a good lawyer or not. You don't know. You can see what school I went to, I guess. Do you really know if I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the particular matter we're working on? You don't. You have to trust a little bit that because I'm licensed and I still have my qualification, haven't been disbarred, I guess I'm better than a non-lawyer. You can, however, evaluate me on the basis of how well I communicate with you. Do I respond to your emails in a timely way? And this applies, I think, to every lawyer who works with clients. When I ran my legal team, I told my lawyers exactly this. It's just, look, the business people that we work with have no idea whether we're good lawyers or not, but they do know whether you're a good communicator or not, whether you recognize and understand their priorities, whether you respond to their emails. And I had a rule. We will respond to every email, every inquiry, latest within 24 hours. Doesn't mean we're going to give an answer, but we're going to say, I heard you. I'm going to get to you by date X. Just that all by itself is so appreciated.
Sometimes that's
Yeah.
all hey, I just want you to acknowledge that my email didn't go out to the ether and that you actually received it. So it could be your assistant for all I know. Hey, he's in court right now. We'll get you an answer whenever. Like he's busy all week, but by the Friday, we'll get you an answer and then I'll stop bugging you. But when I send something and I don't get anything within 2 days, I'm like, hey, did you get my last email? Hey, did you get my last email? Hey,
Yeah. Terrible customer service. And not to excuse it, but maybe to explain it. In the US, the majority of lawyers work in what's called private practice. That means they're working in law firm for their own benefit. Okay. And the majority of those are working in small law firm of between 1 and 5 people. You know how it is to run your own business. You do everything and you're responsible for everything. And there are times when you're more busy than others. And if you're a lawyer charging by the hour, more clients are better. So you will always be looking to get new business. And a lot of people get in over their heads and they get overwhelmed. And all of a sudden they're running around in court. They've got 5 other clients asking them questions. Not that they're lazy and ignoring you. They're busy and unable to keep up with the work. It's still no good and not good from a client service perspective. But I think that phenomenon happens all too easily because of how so many lawyers are earning their money. They're working in a very small law firm, often with very little support. That's something to take into account when you are evaluating who is a good lawyer to work with. Look at the size of the firm and the support that they have around them. You'll pay more on an hourly rate to work with a bigger firm exactly because they've got redundancy. They've got a staff. They've got a paralegal who will be assigned to your case, who different ways that they'll provide you with more service. Yeah, that's one of the trade-offs that you have in terms of responsiveness versus the cost of it, I guess.
Okay. Well, do you have anything else to add that we didn't discuss? Reference paying bloodsuckers? I mean, lawyers.
Yes, you can discuss upfront, and in terms of good communication, just like you want the lawyer to communicate with you, it's helpful for you to communicate to your lawyer about and to just to have, before you enter into the engagement and start the clock ticking, as it were, think about what it is you want and what you don't want, and say, look, this is what I'm looking for. And you can ask the lawyer, even though they're charging you on an hourly basis, can you give me a sense of how much time you think this is going to take and, what it's cost in other cases like this? And don't let the lawyer say, oh, every case is unique. I can't possibly tell you how much time it's going to take. That's BS, right? If they are experienced in the area, they should know, oh, hey, Randy, I've done traffic cases before. This is how long it should take. This is roughly a range of what I think it's going to cost, or it's a sign of whether they're experienced or not. But the point is that it gives you a sense of both what it's going to cost. And then you can ask the question, hey, are there ways that we can manage that cost? I don't want to spend $10,000 for this traffic ticket. Or is there something we can do? And then you should have a discussion, in other words, about what services you think you want and what you're willing to pay for. Don't just say, I need help and start the clock running, because the lawyer will do their best to provide the most that they can to you, which will be a lot, but it'll perhaps come at a cost that you don't wish to pay. Evaluating the parameters of what it is you're getting is a good idea at the beginning. Also, because the relationship is quite personal, it's sometimes worth talking to more than one lawyer. They're a service provider, just like any other service provider. Find one that you have a good personality match with. There's a lot of good lawyers out there. And a lot of times you don't need the Clarence Darrow or the absolute best lawyer that you can find. You just need a good, competent lawyer who helps you through stuff that's their bread and butter, but not yours. And therefore, there's a pretty broad cohort of people who will probably be good enough. And therefore, finding one who you really have a good relationship with, or you think you might have the potential for a good relationship with, is time well spent. You can, if the situation permits it, investing a little bit of time up front to explore the nature of the services and then to figure out, I found a really good service provider. That's a good way to avoid buyer's remorse later, once you're hours or weeks into the relationship with that particular lawyer.
That's good advice. Okay. I think that's ends this episode. Thanks a lot, James. Some of this stuff, I guess, in the back of my head, I kind of knew this, but it's nice to kind of put it all on the table and understand a little bit better. Hey, everyone, thanks for joining us, and please comment and let us know if you want to hear any other specific topics, and have a good day.
Thank you.
We'd love to hear what you think. Please comment on the show and share your thoughts. We read all the comments.
And thanks for joining us, and thanks for subscribing. See you next time.